Hello everyone, I'm Amanda and this is my husband,
Eric.
And we are Acro Fantasy. We wanted to come to you today to tell you a little bit about any props that you might want to use in acro and why you use them.
So I think what we're going to start today with is our wedge. The wedges that I use because of my tight hamstrings, I am unable to get my feet to 90 degrees when they're straight up in the air. So what this wedge does is it basically creates that wedge and creates that flat ground for my back to be on, my lower back, so that I can make sure that she has a solid floor when she's flying.
Yeah. This is also really nice for warm-ups for things like downward facing dog. If that's really tough on the wrists or anything like that, you can actually use that on under your hands or under your heels in down dog, arm balances, stuff like that for traditional acro.
Help keep your wrists not as bent so you're not as much pressure pushing straight down.
Yeah, so I actually use these a lot in studio just for traditional yoga classes, but we found them really helpful for you. Because when we first started out teaching acro and practicing acro, Eric used to use a traditional yoga block. How'd that feel?
Not so great. Lots of corners on the back, especially depending on what it was made out of. But I've graduated down from blocks to pillows. We had rubber foam pads that we used for a little bit, down to blankets, and now I just need this little wedge, and we'll keep moving, and hopefully one day my legs will get straight.
For most people, this is sufficient. For most people, this is plenty of height. Eric is a distance runner, and so it's just he has a lot more tension and shorter hamstrings than most people do.
And this might actually just provide a little bit extra support if you're not feeling too stable either. Some people, even if they can get their legs to straight at a 90 degree, maybe can't when they're basing a partner or struggle with basing a partner. So this could actually add a little bit extra support if they need it.
Yeah, definitely. And the other advantage of something like this compared to a block that we found is I noticed when he was on a block, because he rocks a lot more. And same thing with the foam pad. They're about 2 inches thick. They're a good option, but we're not showing it today because we found it to be not quite as stable. It was a lot more noticeable for me as a flyer, and probably more uncomfortable for you as a base. I don't know how you felt about it.
It felt comfortable for me. I mean, it was squishy, so it didn't mess or leave corners or cut into the back, but you did notice that it kind of moved a little bit more freely. This is kind of like a hard foam, so it's really solid. Actually provides a solid floor for you.
Mm-hmm. So we got this one from Empowered Acro. They're a group out of Austin. They rock. If you're ever in Austin, I highly recommend checking them out. But we also have gotten them elsewhere online, and I'll link some in this video as well. But if you're in Austin, check out Empowered Acro and follow them on Instagram. They're really great. And then the second one we wanted to show is something that you use for sit-ups. Clearly, I do a lot of sit-ups. Something used for sit-ups in a traditional training situation.
Ab exercises. Not just traditional sit-ups, but you could do reverse sit-ups, leg lifts, just to give you a little bit extra range of motion. Because if you were to put about here at your low back, you'll actually bend back farther and crunch up at a fuller, larger range of motion than you normally would from just going to the ground. Mm-hmm. You do have to be a little bit careful because it does put a lot of strain on your abs that way. So just be careful and start slow. And, if you're used to doing, 20, 30 crunches at a time, maybe take it easy, cut it down to 10, see how you feel, and then kind of gradually increase from there, because it is going to add a lot of movement that you're maybe not used to.
Yes. So you need a lot of core stability when you're doing acro and things like that, as both a base and as a flyer. So this is a great multi-purpose tool. You can use this the same way as the wedge. It is a bit thicker. We have not actually used, we might have used this, but I do know other bases that use this. This is also a good option if you're going to graduate to things like Icarian pops, We don't practice Icarian pops. It's not something that I'm interested in. Eric is actually built to base Icarian pops because of the way that his body is, and I don't like them. So it's
So I surprised her a few times, just throwing her up in the air and catching her.
It's kind of sad that he's built that way, and I'm like, no thanks. But this is a really great option for that as well. And they have other things that are even better for Icarian pops. Each base kind of finds the thing that makes them the most comfortable, but this is another good multi-purpose tool for something. This is a little bit squishier than the wedge is, so that's something to keep in mind as well. The other thing you can use, depending on if you need more or less than what these two provide. So the wedge goes up to, it's about 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches, depending on the size wedge that you get. And then this ab mat is about 2 inches to 2.5 inches as well. You can also use a rolled up yoga mat underneath your hips. We've done that in the past, as well as blankets stacked.
Blankets, pillows, depending on how firm they are. You might need more than one. But if you don't have anything else, pillows could work as well.
A really firm, thin yoga bolster is not bad. Manduka makes these rectangular ones that are pretty thin. The ones that we're sitting on would not work. These would be way too high. So you got to make sure that they're at least, I wouldn't go higher than 3 inches personally, because of the angle that your back is going to be at. It could be pretty dangerous for your base. So this is actually pretty good for Eric. He did not used to get this high. Are you struggling?
I am struggling.
He's struggling. And we teach once a week, so this is pretty good for him, actually. But as you can see, his feet are not stacked over his hips. So in order to make it possible for him to L-base, we have to lift his hips up.
Use the wedge.
The wedge. So the thicker part goes towards the hips, the thinner part to the low back. And as you can see, that makes a huge difference. Now his legs still aren't straight. He could go a little higher. We also haven't warmed up today, so that makes a difference. But it makes a huge difference lifting his hips up a bit. Let's go ahead and actually use that just to see what the difference is, because this one is a little bit thicker. So he's going to put the thickest part towards his hips. Rogue goes towards me. So this for tonight is actually a lot better for him. So it's quite a bit thicker. This is a lot better for him tonight because he hasn't warmed up. So just make sure that you're playing with that. You're seeing where you can stack. Again, we haven't used this yet. This is the first time we've attempted that. How do you feel on that?
It feels okay.
Yeah.
It does feel a little bit more squishy, but not enough to where I'm going to feel off balance.
Yeah, and you've also gotten used to the firm wedge as well, which I think it makes a difference. So just a couple options there. And if you guys have any questions about any of these props, let us know.